I'd now like to invite Leroy Ball, President and CEO of Koppers Holdings, to present the final award of the evening. Leroy?
Thank you, Susan. Congratulations to the Board of ANSYS for your special honor tonight. Congratulations to all the awardees. It's been great to be in the audience here tonight and hear your stories. As Susan said, I'm Leroy Ball. I'm the President and CEO of Koppers. I'm honored to be in front of you tonight to present this year's award for Lifetime Achievement in Governance. Now, before I make my remarks, I'd like to direct your attention to the video screens for a brief glimpse into the achievements of David Hillenbrand, the recipient of this year's highest honor.
Tonight, David is being duly recognized for his long track record of corporate governance and leadership success. I've been very fortunate to work with David on the board of directors of the Hillman Company for over a decade. Many of you at the event tonight have had a similar good fortune of working with David over the years. But David's corporate career was his plan B. In 1964, as the Beatles were storming through Europe and the United States, they were competing for attention with David's band.
When I woke up this morning,
as you might expect from their appearance, David's band focused on folk rock music. That's a younger version of David on the far right. The band had hoped to get a corporate sponsorship from Schweppes, the tonic water company. When the deal fell through, the band expressed their disappointment by naming the band the Bitter Lemons. And while the Beatles sold records, played to large crowds, made movies, and built a valuable international brand, the Bitter Lemons were happy just to make enough money to cover their bar tab. Fortunately for all of us, David put his music career on hold in 1967 to join the establishment. And as they say, the rest is history.
I've got a ramble, whoa, whoa.
David, thank you for being so welcoming when I joined the board of directors of Koppers in 2008 as the first woman and the first person of color. In fact, I learned what a corporate director should be by watching your example. You were calm and knowledgeable. You never felt the need to dominate board discussion.
David is a very detailed person. When he was president, he would walk around every day. He got to know the museums in Oakland from top to bottom, but he didn't just learn about the building. He wanted to learn about what was happening and what was going on and how it could be improved in the building.
David is a good and respectful listener. He's a strong, quiet, confident leader. And he's usually the smartest person in the room, but doesn't feel the need to tell you. When it comes time to share his opinion, he communicates clearly and decisively.
And in looking at his resume, it was quite apparent that David had the business skills, having had a very successful career as president of Bayer Canada. But the real question was, for this role, you needed to have something more. You needed to have respect for the sciences and empathy for the arts. And the question was, did David have that? As we entered the interview process, it became apparent that he absolutely did.
He was respected by employees, by trustees, by the boards, and by the community.
It became very obvious after a while that David was the candidate because he understood the art of business as well as the business of art.
While some may have misjudged his personality because of his stature and because his very serious demeanor, but that wasn't really David Hillenbrand. You didn't know him if you didn't know that he had a small, quiet little smile that would appear with his wry sense of humor. And then there was also the showing of his very caring heart. those people who got to know that know the real David Hillenbrand.
The last benefit for me personally was the ability to work with David during that tenure and become a friend. And so to you, my friend, congratulations. This is a well-deserved honor, and only wish I could be there to share it with you.
Thank you, David. We wish you joy, peace, and health.
So, I have the pleasure this evening of introducing the last awardee of the night. Now, I'll spare you his extensive biography, which you can read at your leisure in tonight's program, and instead take my few moments to tell you why I believe David Hillenbrand is more than deserving of tonight's honor. Now, I first met David back when I joined Koppers as a CFO back in 2010, and he was already firmly entrenched as the company's independent chairman at that time. And I have to say how happy I am that my experience in getting to know David began in the internet era, because for those of you who might be wondering why, if you ever have a conversation with David, you can be sure there will be several of what I would call dictionary moments, okay? You know the moments when you're engaged in a conversation and someone drops some words that leaves you scrambling to find a dictionary to figure out what the heck they just said. David has a penchant for doing that, so it would go something normally like this. Hey, David, how have things been? Well, Leroy, the pernicious nature of the recent transmutation of the flagons has benighted the vicissitudes of my shallop. And I'd usually turn to my general counsel, Steve Lacey, and say, I'm not sure if David just insulted me or what. But when I could understand what David was saying, his grasp of our product portfolio and our technology was certainly not a surprise, given his technical background and experience in the chemical industry. What I had no idea of was his breadth of knowledge and his vocabulary across just about any subject matter. I think the term Renaissance man was created for David. He could hold court on any subject and do it in multiple languages, which could also add to the fun of our interactions. Now, while David had several passions, which you saw from the video, that extended outside of business, the majority of my interaction occurred with him in the boardroom or on company-related business. But the best compliment I can pay to him is to say that he brought a level of humanity to our boardroom that you don't often get to see nowadays. He and the rest of our board not only allowed me to care about our people, but encouraged me to work with our people in a way that would demonstrate our care on a daily basis. David realized better than anyone that our shareholders, while important, are not the only stakeholder that we should be focused on. He was the voice of reason, and even more importantly, the picture of calm as our world at Koppers appeared to be crumbling down around us in the latter part of 2014 through 2015. He had the courage to lead the efforts of steering our company in a new direction with a new CEO nonetheless, at a critical juncture in our company's history. And it's easy to look back in hindsight and think about how logical it all seemed and that the choices that we made were easy at that time. But having lived through it, I can certainly and unequivocally tell you it was not. David was always there to encourage me after the tough meetings, to let me know where he and the board thought we were on the mark and where we needed to go back and do some more homework. He rooted for my and my team's success, which I know seems obvious, but some people just have a better way of showing that than others. David's one of those people. With David, there was never a doubt that it came from a place of purity. No agendas, no worrying about who was going to get the spotlight or the credit. It was just about what was best for Koppers. Now, while we already missed David on our board since his retirement last October, his legacy lives on through our 3 new board members that he helped recruit and officially bring on just 1 month prior to his departure. We were recently highlighted by the Pittsburgh Business Times for being the #1 public company in Pittsburgh for gender diversity at the board level, and that's in large part due to David's leadership. We were the inaugural recipient of this NACD's chapter's Public Company Board of the Year in 2017, the award that ANSYS was just awarded. And we were informed just yesterday that we were one of 6 national finalists for the 2019 NACD Next Awards in the public small cap category. Now, the next awards showcase breakthrough board practices that promote greater diversity and inclusion, which ultimately foster long-term value creation. David, I'm proud to say that your legacy lives on at Koppers and will continue to for a long, long time. So everyone, let's please give a warm round of applause to my friend and this year's winner of the Lifetime Achievement Award in Governance, the splendiferous and perspicacious Mr. David Hillenbrand.
Well, thank you very much, Leroy. I appreciate the kind words and the perspicacity that's behind them. I also want to thank Amy and Susan Paley and Kelly Scheitko from NACD for making this such a memorable event. I'm also delighted that one of my two sons, Stuart, could make it today. He's in the Secret Service in Washington, D.C., and as you know, a new candidate announces almost daily, so they're running ragged in Washington, and I was glad he could get away for a day. I am obviously deeply honored and indeed humbled by this award. I'm humbled because I think everyone in this room knows that recognition of leadership is in fact recognition of all of those people with whom you have been privileged to serve and who contributed so mightily to one's individual success. Now, I've served on numerous boards over my careers, but I want to single out my board membership and the employees of the three boards on which I most recently served here in Pittsburgh: the Carnegie Museums of Pittsburgh, the Hillman Company, and of course my colleagues on the board of directors of the Koppers Company, many of whom are with us this evening. These boards have provided wise and considered counsel and decision-making that have been a hallmark of their respective organizations and companies' success. And their superb employees have executed strategies and operational plans with skill and professionalism. The Koppers Board, where I was the only independent director when I first joined in 1998, has, in my opinion, set a standard for independence, diversity, respect for divergent opinions, openness, preparation, tough decision-making, collegiality, education, hard work, and good governance, all features of good governance on any board. Working closely with our talented president, Leroy Ball, I believe we've contributed to the transformation of our company while representing the best interests of our shareholders. In my almost 20 years on the board of Koppers, I've had ample opportunity to witness those qualities in directors which epitomize good governance. And it has indeed been a privilege to have chaired this board and to have enjoyed the confidence and indeed friendship of these gifted colleagues. They have demonstrated to me that a cardinal feature of good governance is indeed a commitment to service. I'm reminded of the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Indeed, this is another characteristic of good governance, and I want to thank my Koppers board colleagues and friends for joining me on this journey. Of course, as we all know, the art of leadership is giving, not taking. And I want to make just one brief observation in this regard. Successful companies are companies that understand the needs of all of their stakeholders, their shareholders, their employees, their customers, the environment, and the communities in which they live and operate. I've always believed that sharing my time with other community organizations would not only make me a better person, but would allow me to give back some of the bountiful good fortune that I have enjoyed over my lifetime. But more than that, it is a responsibility that comes with good governance and leadership. For indeed, we are and should be inseparable from the world around us. It may seem ironic that perhaps I would address comments to a room full of corporate directors on community service, and I know that many of you, if not all, are equally committed to this idea. I mention it only to say that I believe my many years of serving on boards of not-for-profit community-based organizations have brought insights and sensitivities that have informed my corporate board participation in material ways. They have helped my companies to make better decisions and to be better corporate citizens. So let me conclude my remarks this evening by thanking, obviously, all of those who were involved with this achievement award, but particularly all of my friends and colleagues, and there are many of them in this room this evening, for joining me in this real celebration of leadership of all of those who've been honored on this stage this evening. As I said at the outset, I am most honored but also humbled, for indeed this award is a reflection of the efforts of many, not one, and I thank you.